Hi, this is Joe Tate, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Here we go, bring it on in. It's time now. It's all city. We got to do it for them, dog. We got to do it for Cleveland. They're waiting on us. We're fine what we're about. Let's get it going.
Every single night, every single practice, every single game, we got to give it all we got because they're going to ride with us. Everything that we do on this floor, because of this city, we owe them. We're going to grind for this city. They're going to support us, man, but we got to give it all back to them. We get it done. The toughness that we have on the court is going to come from this city. Everybody, the whole city of Cleveland. That's what it's all about. It's time to bring them something special. Let's go. Bring it on in, everybody. Let's go. Hard work on 3. Together on 6. 1, 2, 3. Hard work. 4, 5, 6. Together. 1, 2, 3. Hard work. 4, 5, 6. Together. It's all us. Cleveland on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Sports Fix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix.
Hey guys, J-Rocc here from the Sports Fix, and we always talking about using our platform to try to help the world and the society we live in, and everywhere I go and everywhere we go, bullying is one of the problems in today's society. There's nothing worse than any person, big or small, strong or weak, adult or child, feeling picked on, pushed around, vulnerable, and victimized at the hands of a bully. Change comes one person at a time, and my good friends at No Such Thing as a Bully are working on skills and techniques and ways that we can all change and make things better for everyone. Find out more at nosuchthingasabully.com.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Catch every UFC pay-per-view live in full HD at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
Oh, indeed. Away we go. Off and running the Sports Fix on the air. This is not any edition of the Sports Fix. It is Championship Week edition of the Sports Fix as the Lake Erie Monsters. Yeah, you thought I was going to start Cavs, but hell no. The Lake Erie Monsters, they've got 1 of 4 down, only 3 to go. They defeated the Hershey Bears in Game 1 of the Calder Cup Finals. They are 3 victories away from becoming the AHL champions, and I'll tell you what, right next there at the queue, back and forth. I was looking at the schedule. It goes back and forth between Calder Cup and NBA Finals, as that's right, the rematch that has been not just weeks, not just months in the making, but a year in the making. The Cavaliers, the Golden State Warriors. It's like Stallone or Balboa in Creed getting it back at it in Rocky 2 after coming full circle. Here it comes again, the full healthy complement of Cleveland Cavaliers, the full healthy complement of Golden State Warriors, fresh off of not only an NBA championship and being the defending champions, but a record-setting 73-win season. Here it is on the line. What 4 or is it 6 of the last 8 NBA MVPs between Steph Curry and LeBron James, and 6 straight NBA Finals for LeBron James and James Jones, and so many subplots and stories. And I'll tell you what, I'll get into some more here in just a minute. We'll get through the introductions, but very rarely do you get this, and all hyperbole put aside, very rarely do you get an opportunity, if you're the Cavs, if you're a basketball fan, a sports fan, etc., to see what you're going to see played out here, because you had a situation where you had 2 teams meet up in a championship environment, one team hobbled by injuries and so many what-ifs involved. Whether you believe who would have won what, so many what-ifs involved, and if only, and hopefully we come around next year and we get to do it the right way. Very rarely does that play out. A year later, you come back around and you get that opportunity as fans to see what you were hoping to see a year ago, and what those first couple of games really teased when it came to the beginning. I mean, those first 3 games were looking like an epic NBA Finals before the Cavaliers succumbed to the numbers and the injury, and the Golden State Warriors won that championship last year. But as a Cavalier, too, come on, this is the stuff of legends here when you get the chance to write your own story exactly the way you wanted it to go. We're going to talk about all of this. The phone lines have been absolutely blowing up, as has the social media. I've got takes and predictions coming in from you guys. We're going to get into all of that. Dan Wismar from Everybody Hates Cleveland is here. We're going to talk a lot in depth about the NBA Finals, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Golden State Warriors, the Indians. Carlos Carrasco tonight takes the mound back finally as the Indians get a piece back and continue to roll. They're, 3 games over 500 now with the walk-off. First walk-off of the season. Yan Gomes gets it done in the 11th inning for the Indians. They were struggling on this homestand. Now they've got a chance to warm it up. 4 straight with Kansas City, and you've got a 2-game disadvantage in first place, a chance to turn that thing around. Momentum, Carrasco, you've got a ton of great reasons for guys to get out to the ballpark this weekend with fireworks and jerseys and sunglasses and first place on the line. And, man, it is a good time to be Cleveland. And you know who I thank most for this? I thank ESPN with their 22 of 27 analysts predicting the Cavaliers go down. They've got a cat that predicted the Cavaliers lose this series in 5 games. But I want to thank them, not just for that. I want to thank them for that garbage 30-30 that they put out a couple of weeks back, that trash Believe land that just, they retold the same story. I'm glad that you did. I don't care if anybody out there thinks I'm crazy, believes this or not, but you can't tell me that it's coincidental that the night that damn thing goes on the air, Stipe Miocic does what he does and wins the World Heavyweight Championship of the Ultimate Fighting Championships, and the momentum will continue to roll from there. So thank you, ESPN, for your little trashy documentary Believe Land, because I truly believe that maybe for once Cleveland was kicked one too many times, and the Cavaliers are on the precipice. You may not be a Monsters fan, I am, and you can't tell me that doesn't count. The Monsters, a lot of people, by the way, real quick tangent, a lot of people go, well, J-Rocc, the Monsters don't count. The Monsters count, brother, as far as I'm concerned, and I'll tell you why. Because they average nearly 5 figures a game for the season. And we're not talking about 6 games, 8 games like football, a couple of home games here and there. We're talking about a 36, 40 game home slate with the regular season plus the playoffs. When a team does that, to me, the city sees them as a major league franchise, and I'm not kissing anybody's rear end here. That's not an easy feat to do. I mean, there's nights that the Monsters have attendance that rivals those that are in the stadium next door, and we know that. That's not to pick fun at the Indians. That's to credit the Lake Erie Monsters. But regardless, Monsters, Cavaliers, it continues to roll. So thank you, ESPN. I appreciate that. We'll show you what you can do with your Believe land. We have got so much to get into. Let's rock and roll, because I want to get you guys in first and foremost as we get rolling. Welcome into the Sports Fix. I am your host, the Big Daddy on the microphone. J-Rocc, Jerry Myers with you here live from beautiful Cleveland, Ohio, as we are getting rocking and rolling across the Sports Fix radio network. Whether you're listening live, perhaps on TuneIn's radio app, Worldwide Spreaker, Mixler, their respective digital and mobile apps. Perhaps you're enjoying the show right here on the home base, thesportsfix.net. Make sure you book it if you haven't. It's a great place to catch the live feed of the show. It just booms down from the heavens when you click on the page anytime that we're live as well. It's got all of our links and sponsors and all of that good stuff. Check those guys out. They help bring the Sports Fix to you as well. Shout out to everybody listening on the airwaves of WFSN 96.7 FM in Union City, just outside of Erie, Pennsylvania. And I keep hearing from you guys that are finding the show there as we air Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. So if you're listening, thank you. Welcome in, and keep sending us those messages and letting us know that you're enjoying the Sports Fix up there on 96.7 in Union City, Pennsylvania. As well, shout out to the thousands of you guys listening around the world on digital delay, literally 24 hours a day, because I get messages all hours of the day and night from around the world. Guys listening on sites like iHeartRadio, the world's largest internet radio provider, on iTunes and Stitcher Radio, CarPlay, SoundCloud, all of the different places that you guys download download, feed, subscribe, podcast, do the thing, and get your fix. Thank you guys so much indeed for doing that and be a part of the show today all weekend long. I know everybody's listening to this at different times. It doesn't matter. Hit us up with your takes 24/7 on the take line, and we'll play them on the very next live edition of the Sports Fix. 216-539-7535 is the number to call. 216-539-7535. Can't get through, or many people use the phone to listen to the show. All good. Facebook, Twitter, email, blowing up as always. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at thesportsfixcle. Email thesportsfix@AOL.com. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at thesportsfixcle. All one word. Email us thesportsfix@AOL.com. Speaking of the social media, as I said, we've got comments coming in left and right as we pose the predictions out there. What do you guys see? And that's what I want to hear most here in this first Dan Wismar. Everybody Hates Cleveland will be with us here just about 15 minutes from now. Dan Wismar joining us here. I want to hear from you. Who do you got? Cavs, Warriors, who wins it? How many games? Who's the series MVP? All of that and then some. Hit us up. Let us know what you think as we continue here. Apparently had a little bit of technical difficulty cutting in and out. There we go. Got that straightened out as we roll on. I'm going to go to the phones in just a minute. I want to get back because before we get rocking and rolling, I know that things get carried away, and I don't want to slip past. Going back to what I was talking about, and the Lake Erie Monsters, first off, to start things off, recapping, 4-1 victory, Game 1 of the Calder Cup Finals, which kicks things off. They're on the road locally here, television broadcast on Channel 43 of the first two games before the Monsters come back just like the Cavaliers each series, coming back to the queue for Game 3, but the Monsters did what the Cavaliers need to go do, which is take one on the road, steal that home court advantage. They did just that, 4-1 victory over the Hershey Bears. Hershey, by the way, it's kind of like the Warriors. The Cavs are in a position to not just do something as far as winning a championship. That's unique enough in Cleveland with the 52-year history and all of that stuff piled behind it, but you get the opportunity to do it against an epic foe that's set a record. They're not only the defending champions, but they did the 73-win thing, and they just came back from 3-1 in the conference finals, and you can't... A victory there cannot be discredited by anybody anywhere at that point. I mean, you have not only slayed the dragon, but it was the biggest dragon you could possibly slay. Monsters, kind of in a similar boat. You got the most, one of the most successful franchises in the AHL history is, what's Hershey got? I think I saw they had 11 Calder Cup championships, by far the most of any AHL club. It makes it the premier franchise in the AHL. Monsters were tied at 1 in the third period yesterday before they broke off 3 goals to take a commanding 4-1 lead, and that gives them, as I said, the 1-0 lead in that series. And of course, now they say, hey, we want to get greedy and go for 2. Let's try to make it happen and come back to the queue at the 2-0 clip. But either way, they did what they needed to do. Road teams in a series go out there and look to just steal one. Now we'll see what happens as Game 2 in Hershey before the Monsters switch it back around here to the queue. And the Cavaliers, I'm going to get a ton more into the Cavaliers here once Dan Wismar joins us in about 15 minutes from Everybody Hates Cleveland. And of course, we'll do that. But I mentioned and sarcastically said thank you ESPN and all of that for Believeland, but one thing that I mentioned in there was not sarcastic. 22 out of 27 of the ESPN analysts predict the Warriors to beat the Cavaliers, and I get it. Look, I don't expect basketball-wise everybody to just expect the Cavaliers to win. I remember the other night when Golden State clinched that final Game 7 against Oklahoma City. Same thing there across the panel with the exception of Charles Barkley. Everybody went Golden State Warriors. And I'll tell you something. And I know part of it is the LeBron thing, but part of it is the Cleveland. And we joke, Dan Wismar writes for a website called Everybody Hates Cleveland. They sarcastically, it's the line, we all use it, EHC, Everybody Hates Cleveland, kind of like the Only in Cleveland and all of those things. But, you know, it's one thing to joke about it, to say all the referees are against Cleveland, you know, the world's against Cleveland, fate's against Cleveland, all of that. You know, we have the right to do that. And you know, a lot of times it's just us venting frustration. The world doesn't really hate Cleveland, or does it when you get a situation like this? Okay, and by the way, I can totally dig people got behind Steph Curry and the emergence of the Golden State Warriors, although I was really amazed last year, particularly in the finals, how a short-manned Cavaliers team wasn't the sentimental favorite, even if people didn't think they had the manpower to get it done. I was kind of amazed because you would think 50-plus year history of not winning a championship and two of the big star players go down and you've got bench players in starting roles and you're playing a great squad from the Western Conference. You would have thought that was kind of a story that people get behind. That's one of those stories that they like to tell ad nauseum. And then you circle around to this year, and as I watch them just pile back on the Golden State Warrior bandwagon, which is a whole 2 years old, and it amazes me, just seriously, and I would be saying this even if I wasn't from Cleveland. It amazes me that the Cavaliers are not, if anything else, the sentimental favorites heading into this one. You would think if America had a rooting interest, this would be it. Here, you had a guy who did what he did to his home city, comes back home, didn't get it done the first time, so if you thought he had to pay a penance, or maybe you thought it shouldn't have been so easy for him, he went through where he didn't get it done, and he's got a bunch of young kids with him in a city that starved for a championship, and the guy went back home. And I'm just saying, all the things as a journalist, as a content provider, as a storyteller, all of those things that I do, I'm going, man, this is made for TV. This is made for Broadway stuff. You know what I mean? And it's not. And I get that some of it is against LeBron, and that's for the same reason. Everybody's got their own different reasons for that, whether they feel he's overhyped, whether they don't like, hey, I still don't like that he left Cleveland. I mean, I make no bones about that. But no matter what it is, maybe that's part of it. But what else could it be? Because it strikes me as amazing that they have not latched onto that story. And it just sits here again. I don't expect people to say basketball-wise, oh, well, just because they're the sentimental favorites, the Cavaliers should win. Basketball-wise, you can think what you think. And again, as I said, 22 of 27 analysts on ESPN, all the TNT guys, all of the NBA.com guys going across the board practically for the Golden State Warriors. But it's the tenor of it. It just amazes me that Cleveland is not a more favored story. And I'm not in any way going to belabor that point. I'm just shocked knowing what makes a good story in today's sports world. To me, this Cavaliers team and redemption and coming back to seeing the same squad, but having your chance this time to do it healthy, man, it's got all the elements of a story that you would think these guys would be falling all over themselves to tell. And they're not, but we are, and we're going to enjoy it as the series starts. And trust me, we'll get into X's and O's here with Dan Wismar in just a few minutes. I want to get into a couple of things before we do, because I've got phones blowing up. 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535. 7535. Pick up the phone and give me a call. We'll get your calls in here. I've got several in the queue here in a moment. Who do you think's got this? The Cavaliers, the Warriors. How many games does this series go? 216-539-7535. Something I noticed, by the way, and you know me, I'm not the biggest fan of Brian Windhorst's stuff. I saw some stuff that he was doing in advance of the finals, and I did see one point that I also saw echoed in a couple of other people's pieces, and it was one of the silent keys, and I'm not talking about on the court in the way they play basketball, to kind of the tightening up of this Cavs team as far as a unit heading into the second half of the season, into the playoffs, the acquisition of Channing Frye. And, of course, we would look at that and think they mean on the court. But I noticed it just struck me, of all the things they were talking about, how one of the things he did most was break up some of the cliques. As far as when he came in, he didn't know who was hanging with who was friends with who. And so he would just kind of get unusual groupings of players together in conversations, because to him, he was just talking to who he wanted to talk to. He wasn't talking to this group who likes to stick together and that group. And so by very nature of that, he worked it around, if you think about it, to where a lot of people that perhaps didn't even intend to have conversations with each other found themselves having some conversations with each other, and perhaps that was a big thing. And really, as I thought about it, I'm like, you know what? That makes a hell of a lot of sense when you think about how this thing could have played out that way. So anyway, I thought that was a very interesting point coming from a guy that I'm not usually very fond of listening to him read. A couple of other things real quick. I know you guys are on the phones. Here we go. I've got some live calls coming in as well. Real quick before I go to the phones, Tribe, as I said, 2 back. They've got the Royals in for 4. I think what I'm most excited about is that Carlos Carrasco returns. It was such a scary moment when you think back, 5-6 weeks ago, and you go, oh my goodness, this could be a whole season thing. Are we talking surgery? Dan Wismar and I talked about that several times, but here we go. The hopeful, healthy return of Carlos Carrasco could be another boost for the Tribe. And this weekend, following the momentum right there next door, the Tribe has a chance to get things rolling here as Kansas City's warmed up. I think, what do they got? A 5-game winning streak going. They've got things warming up as well. So now would be a great time for the Indians to get something going, maybe take 3 out of 4 over the weekend here, and get themselves boosted back up into first place. We'll talk some more about the Tribe with Dan Wismar. We're going to talk as well about the Cavaliers and the Golden State Warriors in the NBA Finals. But first, I want to talk to you guys. I am going to go to the phones. I've got several calls in the queue. We're going to bust through them now. Dan Wismar is coming up less than 10 minutes from now, along with the news. But first, we're going back to the phones, or we're going to the phones for the first time. Caller, kick us off on the Sports Fix.
Boy, Ronnie Rod here. I'm all sorts of jacked up. Early in the morning, feeling the city's great right now, even though we don't got the first home game. I'm going down to the watch party tonight, brother. Let me tell you, it's going to be jacked up down there. I cannot wait. It's basically like a home game, and the fellas aren't even playing on the court. That's the atmosphere down there. I gotta be honest with you, J-Rocc. I want to hear your opinion on this. I want to hear the listeners' opinions on this. Pretty much every analyst on TV is not giving us a chance for this championship, and I got to say that irks me just a little bit for a couple of reasons. One of them, it took them 6 games to beat a LeBron James team that was hurt and a bench. How no one's right mind, when you do sports for a living, do you not give a healthy Cavs the chance to beat a Golden State Warriors who just had to battle back and play very hard to win that many games straight to go to this championship? It hurts me that they're not giving us a fair chance or even swinging in our favor, but I get it. I understand it. There's a lot of LeBron James haters out there. There's just a lot of people that don't want to see Cleveland do good. Even ESPN, I mean, hell, did you see the 30 for 30 they released in Cleveland? Not one good thing on it. You might as well have called it dump on Cleveland 30 for 30, because that's all they did was take a big pile of crap on us. But it's okay. They're going to have a lot to talk about us very soon. A little bit disappointed in myself, and I got to be honest with you, because I posted on my Facebook the other day that there's 7 games left in the NBA. I got to say I lied, because the Cavs are going to take this thing down in 6. So, say about 6 games left in the season. Enjoy it, Cleveland. I have a huge feeling you're about to have this series. And girls, you guys have a great day. Go Cavs. Go Cleveland. Go Sports Fix. Let's dance, baby. Woo!
Hell yeah, let's do it, baby. He actually echoed many of the points that I was saying. I'm with you on that garbage 30 for 30. I don't think I've held my feelings back on that, but I agree. And I'll tell you how many of you guys, by the way, while you're calling in and giving me predictions and hitting us up on the social media, and it is blowing up, the social media, Facebook.com/TheSportsFix, Twitter @TheSportsFixCLE. But how many of you guys are heading down to the Q? I was amazed in the conference finals at how many people were filling up the queue to go down there and check out those games. I thought that was pretty cool, and it is going to be like a live home game environment for the fans down there tonight. Are you guys heading down there? Let me know as well. Hit us up, 216-539-7535, 216-539-7535. I'm going to go back to the phones right now. Caller, you are next up on the Sports Fix.
Big Daddy, how are you doing today?
Big Bob.
This is Big Bob from Bristol, Connecticut, and man, is it good to be a Cleveland sports fan. Your Cavs turned it around, and I watched Commander Kluber take control of that mound. Indians are doing unbelievable. Playing great baseball without Carlos and without Bingo Brantley. And please do not deplete our farm system. We do not need another bat. We have a young Indians hungry baseball squad, people. Keep everybody intact. Do not go out and get anybody. You want somebody to get, you pluck them from the farm system. All right, everybody. Baseball, baby. And the Cavs. All right, J-Rocc. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
I love my man, Big Bob, but I don't know about – actually, one of the things I want to talk to Dan Wismar about is the Indians. I love where they're at, but I think they're missing an opportunity to be even better, and I think they should think about making a move here, especially with Marlon Byrd. And those of you that didn't hear, Dan and I talked about this a few weeks ago. I said that there were some suspensions coming down for performance-enhancing drugs. They've tweaked some of these tests, and they're starting to catch some of the cheaters that thought they were uncatchable, and Byrd is one of them. And I remember I was told it wouldn't be any significant national names, but it would be some names you would recognize. I didn't realize that it was going to be somebody from right here on the Indians, and that's the second Indians outfielder busted since spring training. Remember, Abe Almonte is, about 50 games in on his 80-game suspension. Marlon Byrd out for a full season now, as it's his second suspension, which makes it really tough to believe his I took a tainted supplement argument, especially when he was caught with a variant of growth hormone that caused his test failure. 162-game suspension for all intents and purposes. It is the end of the career for Marlon Byrd, and I guess, that's what you do. You get hyped up to come in. You got one shot in spring training. You're trying to get a contract, and there you go. So Naquin is brought up for the Indians for now, but I think that's a short-term solution, and I do think that there's something else to do. We'll talk to Dan Wismar about that. I'm going to go right back to the phones, and then I'm going to take your calls. 216-539-7535, 216-539-7535. Just a few moments until Dan Wismar joins us from Everybody Hates Cleveland, but I'm going right back to the phones. Caller, you're up on the Fix.
J-Rocc, Daddy, it's LG, man. How exciting is this? We're going to get a repeat of the finals, and this time we got a healthy Cleveland Cavaliers team going up against these Golden State Warriors. I hope they make Stephon Curry choke on his mouthpiece, man. How disgusting is that to see this guy chomping at the bit every time he gets a foul shot or whatever the case may be? They should make a rule in the NBA that this guy can't drool all over the basketball court where other guys could happen to slip and fall. We got a healthy Kyrie Irving. We got a healthy Kevin Love. We got a LeBron James that's so fired up to bring a championship back to the city of Cleveland that who knows how bad the beating is going to take place. One thing the Cavs have to do is stop that Curry from doing what he does best, and that's hitting them trees, man. The defense is going to be outstanding in this series. I can't wait for it to start tonight at 9 o'clock, man. I'll tell you one thing, J-Rocc, Daddy, this is going to be one heck of a series, and I'll tell you, this Cleveland Cavaliers team's got to be fired up to put these Golden State Warriors in their proper place, man. Sure, they won a lot of games during the season, but this is a healthy, as I said before, a healthy Cleveland Cavaliers basketball team, and I'll tell you, LeBron James wants this championship more than any other he won. You saw how emotional he is after the last game when they closed out against the Raptors. I'll tell you, LeBron is fired up. He's going to have those guys fired up, and nothing, and I mean nothing, is going to stop this Cleveland Cavaliers team from bringing a championship to the city of Cleveland. Go Cavs, baby!
My man, LGZ, go Cavs, baby, is right. And it all begins here on the road for 2 before back home, game 3 at the Q. I've got time for one more call. I'm going to go live to the phone lines, and then I've got to get the news, and I've got to get Dan Wismar in from Everybody Hates Cleveland. You guys can keep your takes coming in, 216-539-7535, 216-539-7535. I've got tons of Facebook takes, and I'll read some of those here on the way out. But first, back to the phones. Caller, take us home in this opening segment. You're live on the Sports Fix.
Okay, good morning, J-Rocc.
Good morning. This is my man, Bruce. What's happening, baby?
Well, I hate to be the downside of this championship series, but, let's look at things the way they are. Okay?
Absolutely. Let's do it. I'm very realistic about how tough this is going to be. This is going to be an epic series in either direction. No matter who wins, this is going to be a 6-7 game tilt, and this is going to be one when it's done that people go, wow. It's going to be a game where I think there's going to be one blowout in each way. I think there's going to be several tight nip and tuck down in the stretches, and at least one or two overtime games in this series.
Okay, let's start with game one. Is kind of like the, I don't know what you want to call it, the turning point of the whole series. 68% of the teams that win game one have won the finals. Okay?
And that's a significant percentage. That's 7 out of 10 teams that win the opening game win the series.
Right. Now, we also have 3 players, Love, Fry, and Mo Williams, who have never played in a finals.
Real quick, though, I do want to counter with, let's not forget that the Cavaliers had the 2-1 lead in this thing last year. Obviously, a different situation, but, I'm big on not putting too much emphasis, and I think we need to especially keep our eyes on that, looking at what Golden State just came out of, being down 3-1. At no point can you let off the gas, can you let off the adrenaline, because they can close the gap just like that. And so that's the thing. Even if, hey, I'll be honest with you, I don't foresee this happening, but the Cavs could go to Golden State, go to Oakland and win the first 2. They could come right back and return the favor at the Q. I think this series is that
no
close.
No doubt. Okay, now, here's my prediction, if you're really interested in predictions.
Yeah, what do you got, baby?
Okay. The Cavs win the series.
All right.
Only because the NBA is fixed. I mean, there's no doubt.
Do you know, by the way, how many people, here's how bad it is that so many people have that same opinion right now. It's bad when right before Game 7 of a conference final, or Game 6, I believe it was Game 7, during a radio interview, the commissioner of the NBA, Mr. Silver, had to sit there and actually use the statement. I saw this article, and I thought it was from The Onion, because the headline said, NBA commissioner swears league is not rigged. And I'm thinking that that's one of those parody articles making fun of the fact that people are saying that the playoffs are fixed. No, the commissioner literally had to say, I swear we don't favor any team over the other, because between not just one series, every series I've never seen a more messed up, inconsistent set of officiating that would make you believe that the league is literally,
no doubt about it.
It makes you think that they're literally controlling the outcomes of these games. But here's the kicker. How come the NBA's Facebook page, while the Oklahoma City Thunder were leading the series 3-2, how did they release an NBA Finals schedule that already had the Golden State Warriors and the Cleveland Cavaliers, while the Warriors were technically still losing their series 3-2? I've heard the explanation that it was just a slip-up, but when you see that stuff, and the fact that your own commissioner has to say the words, we're not rigged, that'll tell you something about the way people feel so suspicious right now about the NBA. Because if you didn't know any better, you would think that they're monkeying around with their thumb on the scale.
Okay, now with that being said, the exclamation point on my theory here is if Curry gets hurt in Game 3, blows out a knee, then it's completely fixed.
I'll tell you what, though, that is so funny, because and I joke that I've been doing wrestling for nearly 20 years, so I can make a storyline out of anything. But I was talking to some people the other day, and I said, now if I was booking the NBA Finals, I would make sure that at least 1 or 2 Golden State Warriors go down in the early part of this series, because then the Cavs can win, and they can have the same out that Golden State had last year, and then guess what? Now we need a best of three. We need to solve it with a third rematch of both teams healthy, because now Golden State can say we weren't healthy, and the Cavs can say we weren't healthy.
We weren't healthy, right. And it sets it up for next year.
I'm just saying, if that's what happens, y'all heard it here first. If Curry and Thompson go down, or Thompson and Draymond Green, or any two of those three go down in the early part of this series, the fix is in. Other than that, I'm joking. I expect a great series. And I will say, well, I'll pick it a little bit later on, but I think the Cavs need to be careful that it doesn't go to 7, because I think if it does go to 7, it doesn't favor the Cavs.
Okay, now, with that being said, Klay Thompson is the Golden State's best defender. Okay, now if you
know what? I don't agree with that. I think it's Draymond Green, to be honest with you, but he's close. Either way.
Okay, I think Draymond Green is the dirtiest player in the NBA.
Well, I didn't say he's not. A lot of people said that about Varejao, too, and they'll say that about Delly, but that also makes him a good defensive player.
Okay, now here's my thing, though. If you watch the Golden State Oklahoma City series,
oh yeah, I watched every game.
Every time that Westbrook sat down, Klay Thompson took a break, okay, because there was nobody to guard. He didn't have to play the tenacious defense that he had been playing against Westbrook. Okay? Now, with that being said, if we can keep the pressure on him, when, say, I don't know, somebody sits down and we bring another player in. If we keep the pressure on him, he's not as good at shooting because he concentrates more on his defense. Okay?
Okay.
So I have a theory that if we play Delly, Kyrie, Schrump, James, and Fry all at the same time, and then replace them with Mo, JR, Jefferson, Love, and Thompson, he has no time to get a rest.
Well, and I hear you there, but those are some bad matchups for the Cavs, too. I don't necessarily like Draymond Green all over Kevin Love necessarily, because that's going to, there's some different matchups there that I don't like. But I do know what you're saying. That's going to be the key, is exactly what you're talking about. Whether it's the way you've got it or whatever the combinations are, that's going to be the key for Ty Lue and LeBron and the Cavs to figure out is those rotations.
Because we already know that Curry and Kyrie are not going to play defense. They're out there strictly to shoot the ball.
Even if they do, they need to cancel each other out. Each team's hope is that they cancel each other out, and so you're right. And I think the second units are truly going to decide this thing. You know what? If the Cavs win, I mean, yeah, it'll probably be LeBron James because of the story, but just like Iguodala last year, if the Cavs win, it wouldn't surprise me if a guy like Channing Frye becomes the NBA Finals MVP, because I think it's going to be an X factor like that. I think it's going to be, and that's where the Cavs are in trouble, because I think they've got a great bench. I just think the Golden State's is every bit as good, and I mean, that's going to be it. The keys are, when you make the substitutions, do your second units hold serve? Do they give ground or do they gain ground? Because whichever team is effective there is most likely going to win this thing.
Right, and you go right along with what I was thinking, because J.R. Smith and Fry, I figure, are going to be the keys. If they get hot, if J.R. makes his first 3 shots, game one's over. That's the way I look at it. Fry coming off the bench, not a problem at all. Fry, Love, and Mo Williams have never played in a finals.
And I think Love is the biggest key there, because as he's gone, the Cavs have gone. I mean, they've won even when he's been down, but I mean, you can see his inconsistency. I mean, his first 8 games, the first 2 rounds, it was Kevin Love's shine. I mean, he was 19 points a game, 12.5 rebounds, 8 straight double-doubles. But then from there, it's been iffy at best, I mean, he really, with the exception of he had the 25-point game or whatever in that Toronto series.
Okay,
but
but if you think back, though,
he was rough. And he's the one, I was just going to say, Kyrie even played in a finals game at least. He is the true.
Yeah, he played game 1.
inexperienced as far as he's never been this far. And I think as he goes, the Cavs are going to go as well. They've got to get him in the post. He's going to have to body up with those guys down there, whether it's Green, whether it's Ezeli when he's in there, whatever big bodies they're rotating through, whether it's Andy, he's going to have to be in the post. I think if he's standing around shooting threes, we're in trouble.
Right, and if you look at it, the games that Kevin Love had big games, the Cavs won big.
Big, right, absolutely. And that's why he's so key in this thing, even more than Kyrie.
Oh, I agree. Kyrie, I don't know, for some reason he can't score in the first quarter, but he can't miss in the third, so he's kind of like Ron Harper.
I'd much rather you be a closer than an opener, that's for sure. You know?
That's for sure, no doubt about it.
And that's what we need. This is going to be great basketball, Bruce. No matter who wins this series, I think it's going to be great. No matter what. You know what I think is amazing is that ESPN actually had one guy who predicted the Cavs go down in 5. And whether you think it's Cavs or whether you think it's Warriors, I don't know how anybody can think that one of these teams is going to just dominate this series. I don't see it. But I could be mistaken. I mean, I've got friends telling me that it's going to go the opposite way, that the Cavs are determined and they're going to dominate this. And I go, man, how could you watch Golden State come back from 3-1? And Oklahoma City choked some of that away for sure. But how can you watch that and not say, man, these guys are not going to be beat until we have beaten them for 4 games, for 4 quarters in each game, and that is not going to be easy to do.
Okay, one last thing.
Yeah.
Curry, shooting from the right side of the three-point arc, he makes like 95% of his shots from there. You know? If I was the Cavs, I would put Kyrie right in that spot and tell him not to move. You know? I mean, don't let him shoot from that spot.
I mean, yeah, the Cavs, the key is going to be the switch, too. They're going to have to keep their switches true. They're going to have to make sure that they're staying with the extra man because that's Golden State's game. I mean, whether they're coming off the pick and roll, moving that ball 2-3 times around the circle, finding the open man. And the same with the Cavs, too. And that's why I think this series has got the potential to have some of the most beautiful basketball you've seen, and then maybe some of the stuff I don't like. Like I have no doubt that I think there'll be times that it's going to evolve into just run and gun for a couple of minutes, with each team just running down and jacking up bad shots. But I think when each team gets into their offense, we're going to look at some beautiful basketball with 3, 4, 5 passes on each possession, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Basketball fans, in my opinion, are in for a treat as long as everybody stays healthy.
Okay, well, we know we got to run Golden State off of the three-point line as much as possible. And anybody that is covering Draymond Green has to wear a cup. Other than that, it's going to be NBA basketball at its best, no doubt about it.
I think so, too. Real quick, Bruce, because you're a Tribe guy, how you feeling? Carrasco back on the mound tonight. You got a beautiful weather series coming up with the Royals. Feeling good about the Indians?
I feel great about the Indians. I mean, this is June already, and we're still in the hunt. I mean, we're not eliminated like we were last year and played to the last week of the season.
Absolutely.
Carrasco coming back. If he runs over to cover first base tonight, I'll personally kick his butt. Stay on that mound. I don't care what else happens. Just stay on that mound. I do have a question for you last night. I keep score of the Indians games as they go along. How did, in the 9th inning or 8th inning, Santana end up playing first base and Napoli became the DH when they didn't start the game that way? I thought once you lost your DH or put him in a position in the field, you lost your DH. And your pitcher then becomes the DH.
I think there's a way to do that. There's the way to make the switch where you don't lose it, I think, as long as you do it before it comes around in the lineup. I'm not sure. I do believe that there's a way to do that, and that's obviously what they did.
Yeah, but that game ended last night with Santana playing first, and Napoli was still batting. I was thinking, how did this happen? Well,
because there had to have been a corresponding substitution somewhere else, too.
There might have been, but
I'll go look into that for sure.
It just seems a little strange to me.
I'm up against it. You expect some big crowds there this weekend as they drop the fees to try to get some online ticket buying going. You've got fireworks both nights, jerseys, the Royals. I can't think of a better reason to get down there. There's no Monsters or Cavs over the weekend, so...
Yeah, I plan on going to the Tribe game and then heading over to the Q to see the game outside. So
absolutely. All right, Bruce, my man. Prediction for the series. How many games? What do you got?
It's got to go at least 6.
Cavs in 6?
Not real big on predictions, but, I say the Cavs in 6.
All right, Bruce,
only
my man.
Only because, I'm playing my homework hard at the moment. But, I just think it's our time.
I believe it. And, I'm with you. It is our time as well. Bruce, thanks for the call, my friend.
You got it, J-Rocc.
That's my man, Bruce. You guys can keep the calls coming in, 216-539-7535. We'll take them tape recorded because coming up next after the news, Dan Wismar joins me from Everybody Hates Cleveland. First, I asked you guys online, Facebook.com/TheSportsFix, Twitter @TheSportsFixCLE. Who do you have and how many games? Robert Scott just said Cleveland in 6. Kevin Love will be the MVP of the series. I've got responses from all over America. Tex Tony from San Antonio said Cavs take it in 5. Beth Tomey Huber says Cavs in 6. Eliezer Ruiz, Cavs in 6, maybe 7. Mark Rodriguez, Cavs in 6. Dave Melcher, J-Rocc Daddy, Cavs in a sweep, take it in 4. Sean Seastead has the Cavs in 7. So I guess we're just like ESPN, except slanted the other way. Everybody across the board has the Cavaliers winning this one in 6 or 7 games, except my man Dave here on Facebook. Cavs in a sweep. Feeling good about the Cavaliers. Where do you feel? Where do you chime in? How many games? Who wins? Who's the MVP? Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Twitter @TheSportsFixCLE. Email thesportsfix@AOL.com. We're going to take a break, get you the news. When we come back, the conversation continues and we dive deep into the NBA Finals. We're talking Cavs and Warriors, X's and O's, Indians, and so much more with Dan Wismar from Everybody Hates Cleveland. He's coming up next after the news here on The Sports Fix.
I knew right from the beginning that you would end up winning. I knew right from the start you put an arrow through my
heart. The Sports Fix, your choice for intelligent talk.
That was wonderful.
Bravo!
I loved that.
Oh, it was great.
Intelligent talk.
Well, it was pretty good.
Well, it wasn't bad.
Well, there were parts of it that weren't very good, though.
It could have been a lot better.
I didn't really like it.
These guys must be on the wrong station.
It was pretty terrible.
It was bad.
It was awful.
It was terrible.
Get him away!
Hey, boo!
Boo!
The Sports Fix.
I'm Little Teapot, short and stout.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
No, Dad, like this. When I get all steamed up, then I shout, tip me over and pour me out.
This is WWE superstar Roman Reigns. The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
No football? No problem at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted. From their awesome Wing Mondays to every single Cavaliers and Buckeye Hoops games in full HD.
Kyrie splits the D, goes inside, teardrops it home right down Euclid.
That's way up in there for 2.
The excitement never stops. Every day of the week brings a different set of food and amazing drink specials.
And now,
fans, Harry Buffalo North Olmsted is the home for every UFC pay-per-view live on the big screens.
Let's get it all!
And let's not forget their mouth-watering trademark, the Bison Burger.
They sure are good.
Nobody does bison like Harry Buffalo. The perfect combination of healthy and delicious.
Hey there, eat up, y'all. You's as good church-going folk. Y'all deserve a little treat.
What are you waiting for? Get to Harry Buffalo, just outside Great Northern Mall today. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd. SportsFix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making real decisions, creating real victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious!
Football, baseball, hoops, you name it, they have it. Plus, they have awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnificent belt ever created, and it's mine.
With America's Fantasy Sports Superstore, FantasyJocks.com. Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Fantasy Jocks. Visit FantasyJocks.com, your fantasy sports superstore. Championship belts, rings, trophies, and more.
News break.
Good morning, I'm Bob Picozzi. The series certainly will not lack star power. Between them, LeBron James and Steph Curry have won 6 of the last 8 NBA MVP awards. LeBron's Cavaliers visit Steph's Warriors tonight in Oakland in Game 1 of the NBA Finals, 9 Eastern Time on ABC, 8 Eastern on ESPN Radio. James says he cherishes the opportunity to play against the elite.
I've been fortunate to go against Duncan and KG and Ray Allen and the great Piston team, and now, Steph, the great Steph, and their Warriors team.
In last year's finals against Golden State, James averaged 35 points, 13 rebounds, and 8 assists. Connor Sherry scored 235 into overtime last night to give Pittsburgh a 2-1 home win over San Jose and a 2-game-to-none lead in the Stanley Cup final. Sidney Crosby won a face deep in the Sharks' end and directed the puck to Chris Letang, who then set up Sherry. The quarterfinals of the French Open, top seed Serena Williams won all in the first set with Yulia Putintseva, but play has been halted by rain. Top-seeded Novak Djokovic defeated the number 7 seed Thomas Berdych 6-3, 7-5, 6-3.
There's only one place that has all-day soccer action, Buffalo Wild Wings. They've even got a new stadium-inspired menu with items like the bacon double cheeseburger and loaded garlic fries. It's your soccer-watching destination, Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings.
Yo, I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. Don't tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. Don't tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I wanna really, really, really want.
Listen to the Sports Fix.
If you wanna be my lover.
Come on, Cavs. Gotta make it happen. Come on, Cavs. Gotta make it happen with your fans.
You know it, baby. Been talking about it all morning here. Cavaliers tonight, Game 1 of the NBA Finals. Not just the NBA Finals, NBA Finals rematch as the Cavaliers and the Golden State Warriors get at it again. Although, like many in Cleveland, I don't call it a rematch because this is what you hoped you would have seen last year. However, the Cavaliers were a tattered bunch on their fumes, perhaps, of their playoff run last year. This year, both teams full squads as they get ready to hook it up. The best in the East and the best in the West. You're back with the Sports Fix, and I've got my man Dan Wismar from Everybody Hates Cleveland getting ready to join me on the hotline here. You guys can keep the conversation going. We want to talk some Monsters, Calder Cup, baby. The queue is just hopping with the Calder Cup Finals and the NBA Finals. Of course, a week from yesterday, they'll be there for Game 3 of the NBA Finals at the Q. You want to talk any of that? The Indians' big walk-off win last night, the 11th inning victory for the Tribe. Whatever you want to talk, hit us up on the social media, Facebook, Twitter, email, facebook.com/thesportsfix, Twitter @thesportsfixcle, email us, thesportsfix @AOL.com. Again, facebook.com/thesportsfix, Twitter The Sports Fix CLE email, thesportsfix@AOL.com. Who do you have in the NBA Finals? How many games? Is Cleveland going to finish it off? Let me hear your takes right now. Let's get Dan Wismar in here from Everybody Hates Cleveland, and this is an exciting time here as we are on the precipice, the NBA Finals upon us. Dan, how are you feeling today, my friend?
I am pumped, Jerry. I really am. I'm excited. It's weird how the momentum swings go. You know, the Cavs have been victimized by a negative momentum swing without doing anything. I think it's interesting how, about 3 basketball games ago, people were calling for the Cavs in 6, and all of a sudden the Warriors are vulnerable. The Warriors don't look like all that, and Cavs are now all of a sudden the favorites. Cavs don't play a game, and 3 Warriors wins later, and now it's like they're back to unbeatable status. I'm talking about just, I think, what I view as national perception, now we're back to the Cavs having no shot. Because,
I am so glad that you said that first, because I was curious if it was just me that was seeing how quickly that happened. I mean, right after, God bless Charles Barkley. Cleveland loves them some Charles Barkley right now. The other day, after the Warriors win, they go across the panel. Even Shaq is like, got to take the Warriors. Charles Barkley said, I'm sticking with Cleveland. But, I mean, you look everywhere, all of the national talking heads. I was amazed at just how, boom, quickly, like you said, the Cavaliers hadn't played any more games since everybody said, boy, this team is really humming, and look at how they finished things off after just a little bit of a stumble against Toronto, and now without them playing, the big comeback. And it was monumental. I mean, I said that earlier. I mean, you cannot understate what Golden State just did. I mean, they became only the 10th team in NBA history to do that, and I was looking even further. I believe it was only the 5th time it's happened in a conference final situation, although the previous 3 times that a defending champion, now I thought this was interesting, had been down 3-1 in a conference final, they had come back to do what Golden State did. But that was very impressive. As much as people might want to say OKC gave it up, and I mean, they blew their chance to win it at home. You and I were texting back and forth when I was on the road. They blew their chance to win that thing at home when Thompson just had a career night, and then Game 7, you could just tell that it was, the second half was all Warriors. First, before we get into the finals, what were your thoughts on the Warriors on that comeback from 3-1? Because everybody was just writing them off, and they did what champions do, and they won the 3 games that they needed to win.
It was incredible, Jerry, and I was texting, like you say, with you the night that Thompson's throwing down 11 threes out of 18 tries. Just an incredible performance from all over and from everywhere, and without even clean looks a lot of the time. Just was stroking it like nobody I've ever seen except maybe Curry. And between the two of them, I got to say, after watching that comeback from down 3-1, the prospects of beating these guys 4 times is tough to envision. You've got to win one of the first 2 games out there. If you don't, I don't think you have a shot. You got to win. I think it's got to be Game 1. You come back here to Cleveland, hold serve, and hope to win it in Game 6. I don't see the Cavs winning it in 7.
No way. I made that prediction today.
You could see what's going to happen in that OKC series. I mean, even though, Thunder led those games in the third quarter, led those games, I think with the one game they didn't lead in the fourth at all, but you just feel it coming. And, Curry and Thompson, they can both create their own shot. They're going to throw them in. And, I don't know what the Cavs do. They did a decent job of slowing down the guards of the Raptors and taking them off the three-point line and harassing them into taking fewer shots. They did the same thing with Kyle Korver earlier. So they have a way to, get out and double and defend and trap and try to limit the open looks from the three-point line. But these are guys that both can create their own shot, and it's going to be tough. But that's the way I really look at it, Gary, is that you're going to have to win one of those first 2 games like they did last year. They went out there, almost won Game 1, won Game 2. And then, LeBron pretty much just, even though he continued to carry the team, he was clearly exhausted. If there's a plus for the Cavs, I got to believe it's the rest factor, it's the health factor, and it's really it sounds like maybe overstating it, but it is the LeBron legacy factor. I mean, this series is the stuff statues are made of. I really do think that. I think that
bro.
Sincerely. This is it. I mean, lose twice in a row to the Warriors, and people talk less about how the Warriors might be an all-time great team, and they talk more about the passing of the torch and LeBron being on the slippery slope, on the downside of his career, and that his day is over. You and I both know what this guy's made of, and I don't know. I don't see it happening. It's really kind of ironic. I don't know if irony is the right word to talk about this last couple of weeks with the Believe Land show coming out. I can't tell you how many tweets I saw just tonight. People saying, and these are not Clevelanders. These are people without a dog in the fight that say, "Man, I just watched Believe Land. Man, I'm pulling for the Cavs." It's all over the place on Twitter. I just did a search on Cavs on Twitter, so you're getting a national view of people with Cavs in their tweets, and so many people reference Believe Land, and it must have been on last night again.
Dan, I've got to tell you, and I am amazed that Cleveland is not the sympathetic favorite everywhere. Like, this is the story that they all hope for heading into a series like this. I mean, this is, and like you said, it's everything to be that statues are built of. When you want something and you call it out and everybody's waiting for it, and then you get it. It's Rocky 2. It's Balboa and Creed again, after you thought there wouldn't be a rematch, and here it goes. But let me ask you something, because all of the focus, you talk about who's got to do what for each team. Staying real quick with OKC and that series, because I think you can obviously take some things from a series and from looking at them. Look at their top two. You've got Kevin Durant and you've got Russell Westbrook. And I'm curious, because you and I have talked about Westbrook and compared him to Kyrie before. Take those two and Kyrie and LeBron James. How comparable would you put those two duos? I mean, I've definitely got them pretty close. Maybe you think LeBron's better than Durant, but I think Westbrook's better than Kyrie. However you got it, they're relatively close. And as you said, Thompson and Curry came up and did their thing, but it's who comes up around them. I mean, the rest of this team, and we're all pointing at Kevin Love, but the rest of this team, Channing Frye especially, those guys are going to be the key, not LeBron James and not necessarily Kyrie Irving, to what happens, because as you saw, the Golden State Warriors figured out how to take care of business with two of the best players in the NBA on the other side and a 3-1 lead.
Yeah, that's true. And I am with you as far as them being roughly comparable, but I really think that LeBron has it so much over Kevin Durant that it tilts it the Cavs' way.
Okay, and I'm with you there.
Durant can throw down 35 a game. He doesn't have close to the all-around game. I don't think he has the defensive game. He certainly doesn't have the leadership game of LeBron. And so that skews the comparison right there. Even though they're both considered to be superstars, I think Durant is much more of a one-trick pony, I guess you'd say. Score the basketball, and the rest of the intangibles and the rest of the game of basketball isn't quite, isn't even, I think, in the LeBron league. But and they failed. In the clutch, they let one get away.
They sure did. They sure did.
You have to lose it before you win it. I guess like the old cliche is, you got to get there and lose it before you can get there and win it. And they really did let that one slip away. And it was, I think, Durant and Westbrook. I heard some numbers. I think it was Mike and Mike the other day quoting them. Crunch time minutes. They have some stat for game within 5 points, and then the last X number of minutes, and combined Durant and Westbrook were like 2 out of 19 or something, and No, they
it was awful.
They didn't put it in the hole in crunch time, and like we talked last time we talked about these games coming down to a handful of possessions at the end, and when they do, your stars have to step up, and your stars are going to get critiqued either way if you don't win the game. They're going to, LeBron has experienced that all of his career. Well, he shouldn't have passed that ball. He's a star. He should have just taken it to the rim. Well, he tried to take it to the rim, and he didn't get it because he got fouled and didn't get a call, and he should have passed it off to the wide-open three-point shooter. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. But bottom line, I think those two guys just didn't execute at crunch time, and I think this Cavs team has guys that can and do and will. We will certainly find out. I think.
Oh yes,
we
will, man.
The pressure's on the champs. Pressure's on the champs is the way I look at it.
And I'll tell you what, and looking at that, just even taking, again, some things that you saw from that series and applying it to the finals here, a couple of things that I think you can definitely carry over is you've got to realize, and it's the same for the Cavs, but Golden State has that unbelievable ability to, within a matter of 90 seconds, they can go from down 10 to up 10. And you look around the building and go, how in the hell did that happen? Cavs have that ability too, and that's what's going to make this, I think, such a good matchup of two really good teams. No matter who you think is going to win or whatever, I think this is two really good teams that are going to get at it. But another thing, and you mentioned it, when you talk about those poor stats at the end of games with the star players. One thing that was a part of that, and it was, I'm watching the series, and I wasn't rooting in any direction, but as somebody watching Oklahoma City do exactly like you said, there was so many bad offensive possessions, and I don't know if that goes to OKC or if it was the defense of Golden State. I think it was the former, because you saw a lot of bad offense, one pass if even, quick three-pointers, bad offensive possessions. Sometimes the Cavaliers fall back on those bad traits. They've done so much better of not doing that in the playoffs, but they've got to stay cognizant that this is not, and I know that they know this, that this is not any of these teams from the East, that even they all made a few runs on the Cavs. This is a team that goes from 0 to 100, light speed, and that's the thing that the Cavaliers have to maintain focus on at all times, even at the end of games. I think you're right, Jerry, that we saw some things out of the Thunder that hurt the Thunder that are also things that we have watched hurt the Cavs during the year. And one of those things is being a little bit too loose with the basketball and not valuing every single possession, especially in crunch time. Getting a little bit too fast and loose, getting a little bit maybe too fancy with a pass, or trying to do too much and not taking care of the ball and turning it over at key times. That's what Durant and Westbrook were both doing. Sometimes they were errors of commission, trying to do too much or make a great play. But more often than not, it was maybe just being not valuing possession of the basketball as much as they should in crunch time. And when the other team can turn around and come down, pop a three, and have a 5-6 point turnaround in a couple seconds, like you say, it crushes you at the end of games when you don't value each possession and take care of the ball. So we've seen it on the Cavs side too. So you're so right. I think that's very key to their success is at the important times. You got 24 seconds. Take care of it. Let's talk about taking care of it. Let's talk about the Cavs and the Warriors and this NBA Finals here, because as these two teams go into it, I've looked at so much stats and numbers. They've been throwing it all over the place, and if you dig around, ESPN has deep numbers on everything. I don't even know what half of this stuff means, but if you want to find it out, it's out there, and this is what you've been waiting to see, each of these teams. And I mentioned it kind of at the beginning. I talked about it in the beginning part of the show too. Not a rematch in my eyes as much as it is on the books, because the Cavaliers are at full strength. Kyrie Irving was just barely able to hang on to a string to get to the NBA Finals, and then it's game one after a good effort. And I'll tell you what, I mean, who knows how a whole series would have played out, but he showed a good ability on that night to defend against Steph Curry. But they lose Kyrie Irving. Kevin Love had already been out since the opening round of the playoffs, and I mean, the gauge was low. They were on fumes at that point, and I think we all know that. Whether you give it an excuse or not, those are all out the window because each of these teams is at full strength. Even Curry, who was hurt in the earlier part of the playoffs. These guys are, for the most part, as healthy as you can be after you've played all the games that there are to play and you're in the NBA Finals. So that's what makes it so interesting. How often, Dan, do you get that chance as a team, as fans of a sport or of a particular team? If you're LeBron, if you're the Cavs, you talked about the stuff that statues are made of. How often do you get that chance where you said, man, if only we had Kyrie and Kevin Love, and now here you are against the exact same team going at it again? That is an ultra rare opportunity for redemption.
Well, you're right, and I think everybody says even with the big three healthy, that if the Cavs do have an edge, it might be not only rest but depth. The Warriors can bring some good bench players too. But the Cavs really can roll 10 or 11 guys out there and feel okay about it. The thing that I was also thinking about here, and we've been talking about this ever since, October, okay, when they're playing exhibition games. And we talk about the grind of 82 games and 82 one-night stands and how sometimes LeBron just looks bored with the whole thing. In no other sport could you really sit there at the beginning of the season? Baseball, it's playoffs been so unpredictable the last few years. Football, you never know what's going to happen. You have some elite teams, but you don't have any idea start of the season who's going to end up in the Super Bowl. But, man, we were talking about it in October. Hey, do we really have to go through these two games to get the Cavs and the Warriors back in the finals where they belong, and let's play it out? You could predict it then, and it just right as rain. I mean, it just happened that way because they're the two best teams, and you don't have a one-game wild card and knock somebody out on having one bad day. The best teams win. The best teams get to the final. I think the NBA is unique in that regard, that you could sit there and look at these two teams in October and say, these are the two teams in the final. I mean, you have your surprises, but this is something short of unpredictable, wouldn't you say?
I'll tell you what, man. I mean, it's that's what I mean. The rare opportunities and looking at these two teams against each other. And while I'm going to start on the negative, I'm not going to start. And I don't mean negative as in to drag it down, but I you know me. I think it's easy to look at the things you do good, and that's where it's easy to go wrong. But looking at some of the things that we mentioned, we've seen the Cavaliers show some issues with, and one of mine and yours all season long has been the lackadaisical attempts every once in a while on defense. Though obviously, when they want to defend, I'm telling you, the Cavs. I've said it for 2 years. When they want to, they can defend with anybody. But there's times that they don't. And when I talk about looking at some of these advanced stats, here's one that I saw that really pointed that out. And this is something that cannot happen in this series. In the playoffs, the Warriors are the number one team as far as what they call contested shots per game, and that's considered getting a hand in the shooter's face on defense. Warriors at over 66 contested shots per game in the postseason. Cavaliers only 57 contested shots, which is the second lowest amongst all of the playoff teams. And that is something that cannot happen. And that is, we talk about it every once in a while, I joke about even the token hand up on defense, and Golden State obviously specializes in that. That is something that has to flip around. And I have no doubt that everybody's going to dial it up to another level anyway, but that's one of those places where, this is going to be one of those series, no matter who you're rooting for, where it's going to be a bounce of a ball here. There may be a blowout in each direction along the way, but there's going to be every other game where it comes down to 1, 2, 3, 4 plays in the final couple of minutes that's going to determine this, and it's going to be such a small margin of difference between the winner and the loser of this series. What do you think?
Well, I'm with you, and just like it was for the first 3 games last year, when really the Cavs lost game 1 on a missed shot at the buzzer and then a putback, I think, by Shumpert that he tried to rebound the miss and throw it back up, and it didn't go down for him. two shots basically at a buzzer beater in Oakland, and then game 2 was just tight as a drum too, and then game 3 out here, not a blowout by any means. But and then obviously we know the Cavs kind of wilted and down the stretch, and that was that. But I expect exactly the same kind of intensity. I do think that LeBron and the leaders on this team, and we've got several of them, and you can count J.R. Smith among them. Certainly you can count Kevin Love among them in terms of guys that are just going to demand intensity, 48 minutes worth. I don't expect anything but that, and because I don't think LeBron will stand for anything but that, and I think he will lead by example in that way. So being lackadaisical on defense, I don't know. It's not a concern of mine in the NBA Finals. I really don't see it happening.
And I hear that
not
from
that
the
there
perspective.
not that there won't be breakdowns, or there won't be some pick and rolls where Bogut gets dunks or whatever. But I just think the intensity will be there. And like you say, when the Cavs dial it up, they can play some intensity. And I was wondering about that shot statistic too. 57 contested shots might just mean, there's fewer shots overall. When you're making the other team wind down the clock and shoot late in the shot clock and that sort of thing by playing tough D. So, not sure. Like any stat, you can twist it around, but I'm not sure how meaningful that really is in terms of contested shots. It might just mean fewer overall shots as well.
Well, and I hear you there. One of the things when you talk about it, and countering back what you said, of course, with LeBron, a guy that's there, a couple of the guy, even Kyrie got a little taste of the actual finals experience. I think one of the keys, and this has been again all season, last season since the trade. Kevin Love, is he worth the hype? Is he worth all this and that? But this is as far as he's been, and obviously he's had some good games here, some games where he was key. He's also put up some very meager games as well along the way, and we've seen that's going to be big, because to me, if you're looking at, even if you want to just mark guys off 1 through 12 down the list on each team, if you want to say, okay, you got Kyrie and LeBron, you got the Splash Brothers, so let's neutralize those 4. You start moving your way down the list. I mean, Draymond Green is incredibly effective, especially defensively. When I brought that up about the contested shots, the leader, both teams by far, nearly double the next closest guy, Draymond Green, one of the most aggressive as far as getting back out. And I've watched. I mean, we all watched a lot of the Oklahoma City series, I'm sure, but I've watched him, and whether you care for him or not, he does a good job. He's constantly closing out on guys. But that's your next guy. That's your guy. If you're looking at Kevin Love and what he's got to deal with, there's a guy like that. And again, even when you get into substitutions, there's going to be Iguodala. There's a lot of guys there that are going to be different types of challenges. So Kevin Love, it's going to be key watching what he does. None of us know. I don't think he knows until he gets out there in the finals. That is so big, a guy like him. I mean, even Shumpert, Delly, those guys got key experience. Everybody that was on this squad last year got that finals experience. Kevin Love is the most key guy who got none of that last year. So, I mean, I think that's the big X factor, clearly, as he has been all year.
Yeah, I would agree, and we saw it in the last series where he was up and down, and there were some games where he ended up shooting well in the third and fourth quarter after having really very underwhelming first halves, shooting the ball, and what was it, game 5 where he just came out and was super aggressive, and right from the opening tip. Was aggressive going to the basket, scored, 8 of the first 10 points or whatever, and rebounded aggressively. And it was like a different guy. It was a guy that, went up to Canada, didn't know how to play north of the border or something. I heard somebody also say today that, the Cavs are undefeated in the United States of America. I hadn't really thought about it, but that's true in the playoffs. So, but yeah, and I also think, scoring, you're going to have your backcourt at least come close to neutralizing in points Curry and Thompson. You're going to have Kyrie and J.R. Smith and whether it's Delly or Shumpert or somebody else, you're going to have your backcourt roughly, not get outscored by 20 to 25, 30 points a game by those two guys. You're not going to be able to survive if you do that. Your backcourt's going to have to put the ball in the hole, and at least try to come close to neutralizing those guys just in terms of points scored, for it to go well, at least as far as I can see. So that's it's going to be big fun. And we've been talking about, like I said, since October, and hey, let's get this pesky 82 game regular season out of the way so we can roll the ball out there and let the best the big boys play it off in the playoffs. And exactly what we're getting, and I can't wait for it to happen tonight.
Oh, man. I mean, this is like you said, what we've all been waiting for. You're listening to the Sports Fix. J-Rocc, Dan Wismar, fired up. You are as well, as we continue to talk about the Cavaliers and the Warriors and the NBA Finals. And you and I will be back a week. We'll be back on next Wednesday, which will be the first home game for the Cavaliers in this series, regardless of what goes down in games 1 and 2. That game always key, because whether you've put the pedal to the metal on the road, stole a game, which, as you mentioned, the Cavaliers have to do. I mean, we can talk picks or whatever in a minute, but I've told people, anybody that'll listen, I'm with you. If this thing goes 7, I don't see the Cavaliers, even though LeBron James is great at going on the road and closing things out. He's won games in every round I think he's ever played in on the road. It's some amazing stat, but Game 7 on the road, I just don't see Golden State losing. However, if the Cavs are going to win this thing, they're going to have to do it. I think it would be Game 6 when it comes back here. But you got to get one early. I think that's exactly what Oklahoma City did. If you look at the imprint there, get them on the ropes early. And I think we saw that in every series. And that's another thing. Regardless of what happens with Games 1 and Game 2, you can't get too down or too high, because we saw Portland, we saw all throughout the playoffs, we've seen teams give an early shot to the Warriors, and then they bounced back and closed it out. And then Oklahoma City gave them an early shot and then a couple of gut shots right in the middle and had them on the ropes, but they fought their way back. This team, that I heard the cliche thrown out so much, but the old never underestimate the heart of a champion, the Rudy Tomjanovich line, and it's there, because they did show that. And I joke that there hasn't been a Golden State Warriors fan pre-2 years ago since the dad on Full House. That was the last guy to publicly claim to be a fan of the Warriors. They've all come out of the woodwork now, but you've got to give credit where it's due, whether you like those guys or not, that they have the heart of a champion, and that if the Cavs win here, there will be no excuses. I don't care what anybody nationally wants to say, because you're going to beat what is the best regular season team in NBA history, that is the defending champions at full strength. Nothing can be taken away. If the Cavaliers win, they win, and it's shown in all its glory to the world.
Oh, amen, brother. I mean, you've got it exactly right. The home court advantage for the world champions, best team ever, and it would be such a sweet moment that we cynical Cleveland fans that have been around for half a century through this, we are not quite ready to believe, because we've been down this road. But I'll tell you, I do have a good feeling about it, because I just know that I have a feeling that LeBron, when it comes down to it, that he is mentally ready, and he's physically ready. And I think really when it comes right down to it, he can dominate even, without a great supporting cast. I mean, and he's got a great supporting cast. He's got, this is a really, really good team with one super focused superstar. And say what you will about the 2-time MVP on the other side, we got the best player on the planet on our team.
So let me put you down to it. Dan Wismar, how do you see this series playing itself out legitimately? Taking of course we all want to be at the parade, but how do you see it playing out? Do the Cavaliers get this thing done, or do the champions survive one more time?
I'm going to say they get it done, Jay. I really am. And I don't honestly think that that's my heart totally talking. over my head. I think they're going to grab one out there, and I think we are going to be tough to beat in games 3 and 4, and we'll have a shot to win it like the Thunder did on our home court in game 6. I just see that being the way it plays out. I think we're going to go steal one out there. I think their team is maybe, emotionally a little bit drained, maybe they're a little bit fatigued. Maybe they're a little bit tight around the collar when it comes down to crunch time in one of those games. And I think we're going to grab one out there. And I think we'll at least have a shot then to win it in game 6. Call me crazy, I'll be watching, but I do have a good feeling about it because I just feel LeBron is on a mission, and I don't think he will be denied.
Tell you what, if the Cavaliers do it, and especially with, as we've laid out all the story here, it snaps with 52 years. I don't even know the friggin' number, however many hundred and whatever consecutive seasons between all the teams. And here we go. And as you said, we've mentioned the tweets, the Believe land. Everybody says it all started that night. But, I mean, from that night, Stipe wins the UFC title. It rolls on and on. The Monsters can't put the cart before the horse, but they're as far as they can go in their thing. And hopefully they finish it off. And the Cavaliers, and knock on wood, you got the Indians, which we'll talk about here in a moment, and so on and so forth, man. It really does seem, and I've joked and said, the transverse property of the universe, whatever you want to call it. Everything. I mean, even the rivers and the lakes work that way. Once you turn the momentum, it goes full force the other way. You've got to think, whether it was that stupid 30 for 30 or whatever it was, once it turns the other way, it's all downhill from there as far as going in the opposite direction for Cleveland sports in general.
Hey, I'm with you, brother. I'm 63 years old, Jerry. The Browns won it on my 12th birthday. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I was not on TV in Cleveland. We were huddled around the radio listening to that game, Gibbs family, making the call. That's a long-ass time, brother. And, I'm ready. I have a little bit more perspective now. With age comes perspective. There will still be wars and problems in the world the day after a Cleveland team wins a world championship in a Big 3 sport. But it'll be sweet. I will savor it. And, whether it happens in a couple of weeks here or somewhere else down the line, it's been a long time coming, and it's going to be a sweet moment. And I do agree with you that when it turns, it could turn for 2 or 3 of these franchises in this town. And, maybe I'm optimistic that the town in general is on an uptick in terms of its pro sports. We can get to that Tribe, their win last night, and some of their roster moves, and just when we thought we were going to get an outfielder, back from PED abuse, we lose another one. So there's all kinds of things going on there too. We can check it out.
I'm telling you though, man. I mean, I said Indians Cubs World Series before the thing started, man, and wouldn't it be something if it just rolls on through Stipe, the Monsters and the Cavaliers and on to the Indians, man. And I said technically, if you just want to say 2016 might come up all Cleveland, the Browns really don't count because the Super Bowl's not until 2017. So technically it doesn't even matter what they do. All of the available championships in the year 2016, we can start rolling on those. And let's talk about those Indians, because here they sit with the opportunity that we've talked about and that they kind of flubbered away a little bit last year with the Indians or with the Cavs in their run, and the Indians not doing their thing to start the season and not really capitalizing on that feeling. There's a true civic feeling going around Cleveland with all of this stuff going on, and now the Indians at least have given themselves an opportunity, flirting in and out, back and forth with first place. I think they saw first place for the first time since an opening day in years the other day. It had been multiple seasons, I think since 2014 perhaps, since they had a share of first place beyond the usual, first day or two of the season.
Right.
The weather's nice. The Indians are trying to capitalize now with the fee-free weekend for the series upcoming here. Carlos Carrasco returns here tonight for the Indians. Talk to me a bit. We'll talk about losing Bird in a moment because I kind of talked about the steroid thing with you a few weeks ago. But where are you at with the Tribe? They've got to have you feeling good because even with things not together, you still have the question mark in Michael Brantley. With all of these kind of up and down fluctuations, the Indians have got to have you feeling good right about now.
Well, they do and they don't, Jerry, and I'll tell you why. You came into a 10-game homestand. A half game out at first? And, the Tribe has done this to us several times over the last few years where, you've got the momentum, you've had a good road trip, you're coming home, you've got a 10-game stretch, Orioles, Rangers, Royals, you got 10 home ball games, nice weather, presumably bigger crowds, and you kind of, stub your toe a little bit. They stubbed their toe against the Orioles, they stubbed their toe against the Rangers. The other thing, that's obviously it's a long year. What I want to see, Jerry, is some aggressiveness by this front office. When you lose a couple of outfielders and you've got Brantley going down and you've got Bird now being gone for, his career being over, your answer to that is going to be Tyler Naquin. I like Tyler Naquin. I think he's a future player for this team, but I'd love to see a move by this team that says, hey, we're serious about winning this year. We're within an earshot of first place right now at the quarter pole. It's too early to talk about the trading deadline and the 4th of July and on all those kinds of things and the halfway point. We just passed the quarter pole, but I sure would like to see an indication from the front office that they take this year's chances seriously and that they want to try to capitalize on a decent, if not a great start by this team and pump them up a little bit as players that, hey, as a front office, we're behind you. We're going to make some moves. Do you feel that way? I mean, where are you with that? I mean, in general, I feel good about the team, and they've done great considering Carrasco and Brantley, arguably your two best players, have been gone. But I sure would like to see, a front office that at least acts like they think they can win and they want to make some moves to pump up this roster a little bit. The pitching seems fine, but let's take the 12 or 13 man position player roster and see if we can improve it by bringing some talent in.
And you know what? I agree with you. When I said what I said, I most definitely. I wanted to bring that up with you, too, as far as where you can go now that you've got the opportunity. I mean, Naquin can fill a spot here, but I do feel that there's the opportunity here to put this thing over the top as far as getting another piece in there for I don't know what you want to say, the stretch run. We're not at that point yet, but for the summer, and to not wait until, okay, let's do the trade deadline thing, but let's get some things going, because I am happy from the perspective of, as you said, missing some pieces and getting things together and being three games right now over 500 with the opportunity. See, that's the thing, is I think that they kind of missed an opportunity here. And as you mentioned here, stubbing your toe at this homestand when you lose 2 out of 3 to the Orioles and then drop a couple really non-competitive games there to the Rangers before you bounce back and get this one. And now it really puts the focus on this series with Kansas City here, because they're just now heating up. They've won 5 in a row heading into this thing.
That's
here.
Right. They've surged into first place while you're stubbing your toe, and they're coming in for 4 games at your place. You played pretty well against them last time. You took a series from them last time you played them. There's no intimidation, I don't think, there. And the Tribe's been playing better against their division opponents. And let's face it, the Orioles and Rangers are both pretty good teams. They're both, running first in their divisions or close. And so it's no crime to drop 2 out of 3 to them in a series. But, you'd hope for some momentum here. And again, I don't even presume to know what kind of move you're going to make. I just would like to see a front office that's active and serious and thinking big, even if what you're able to pull off might not be big. I'd like to hear some rumors that we're out chasing somebody good, a big name, a corner outfielder or something. You're trying to bring somebody in here that can help this team. I don't know that you're going to win much with a with a Lonnie Chisenhall in right field, for example. I just look at the roster and I say, okay, third base, right field. If you're looking at two corner positions where you might be able to improve this roster, those are the two positions I look at, first of all. If you're going to make a move, you're going to try to do something at one of those two spots.
Oh, I think so too, and I think, as you get going here into the month of June, I think that if the Indians, and again, this is where a lot of fans would say, well, you don't wait for the team to put you in a position, but a position like this here, if you can have a strong series with the Royals, you get the first walk-off. Matter of fact, I think that's the first walk-off since the end of last season.
First walk-off win of the year, no doubt.
Yeah, and perhaps get a series here, a good series win against the Royals. Get some momentum going, and perhaps with the guys next door doing what they're doing, the pressure mounts there, because I'm with you. I do believe. And that's why I say it's not so much, go out and get a piece to save this thing, to put it over the top and put things together, too. Because you don't want to put it all on, if they get Michael Brantley back. No, it's got to be more than that. And I think that's the thing, is it's right there for the taking. The rest of the squad, it's not like there's 5 or 6 holes where you go, well, yeah, but that would only do so much. They really seem, for the first time in years, to really be in a position where 1 or 2 moves really could put you over the top.
Right, especially when you have this starting pitching rotation where you've got promising results lately out of even the back end of that rotation. Say Bauer, even Cody Anderson, when he came up for that spot start, looked great. Tomlin's looking good, and Carrasco comes back. You've got Kluber pitching well, and Salazar. So nobody in the, possibly, you look at the White Sox maybe as a team that has possibly comparable starting pitching, but I don't think they have, the everyday lineup to do it. And I also believe that you're going to have to win this division. I don't see the wild card coming from the Central. I just, there's going to be teams in the East and West. I think they're going to, possibly be wild card contenders. You're going to have to win this division, and that ought to be the focus: is doing what you can and getting a position player or two to help this rotation, score some runs, and try to win this thing, because the teams are flawed. I mean, the Rangers, the Royals rather, just lost some stock for the season. Everybody's got their issues, and I think the Indians starting pitching is well better than the Royals. And this division, like you say, it's there for the taking.
Now,
there's no great team in this division, including the Indians.
Here's my thing with
it's there for us.
And of course, I agree. Go out and take the division, but I disagree as far as the wild card. Actually, as you were saying that, I'm sitting here pulling up the standings, and as I look around, and this is something where you in general, when it comes to make a move, it's much easier for us to say than do when it comes to who's the willing partner, because it's actually the parity when you look around the American League, especially the all of the teams bunched at the top between.
You're right. Everybody thinks they've got a shot.
Everybody, but look though, I mean, 2/3 of the American League is within 5 games of each other in the overall standings. I mean, Boston's on top with 32 wins, but I mean, the Tribe's just 5 games behind that with 27 and 24 records. So you've got 2/3 of the AL still not just feeling that they're in it, but within, like I say, 5-6 games of each other. I think until you get some separation there, and that's where I jump with you and say that's where you don't wait for the market to dictate to you. You go out there and be that first team to say, hey, if everybody's going to kind of chill in the same part of the water, we're going to go make the dive and make the move, but it's just as easy. And I fear this is what the Indians like to do a lot, to talk yourself into the safe way, which is let's wait and see what everybody else is doing, and let's wait and see things, and that's what gets frustrating to me. But
right. Well, Jerry, even if it's a rumor that's out there that
get you fired up.
Chris Antonetti's talking to so and so. Even if it's something that can put a burr under Lonnie Chisenhall's saddle or put a burr under Wadney Uribe's saddle, whatever it is. Get those guys to say, hey, man, they're out there looking for my replacement, and I'm going to step up my game or whatever. So whatever it takes, I would just like to see an aggressive front office that's acting serious and making serious moves and talking serious player acquisition to teams at positions where you legitimately need some help and positions where you don't really look like a playoff team at certain positions on the field.
And I was curious if you've seen as well. I mean, I think there's so much more parity in the AL than there is in the NL, at least in the first quarter of the season. When you look at talking about all those teams bunched together, I mean, you know, in the East, you've got 3 teams all under 5 games away from each other. In the Central, you've got, you know, everybody but Minnesota underneath 5 games within from each other. Seattle and Texas right there, not at the top of the West, and Oakland's a little bit further back. But when you go to the National League, every team that's in first place has big gaps on second and third. I mean, the Central is wide.
Cubs, Giants.
The West.
Cubs,
I mean, really, the East has
an even numbered year, so that means the Giants have to win, and they've been.
I mean, there's a lot less competition right now, and of course, it's a long season, but there's right now a lot less competition. I mean, in the early going, if these things play themselves out, you may see several of the divisions in the National League won by record-setting margins.
Yeah, it sure could happen. I kind of expect the Cubs to keep on going. I don't really expect the Giants to be running away.
Are the Cubs running away with everything, or what? We talked about them a couple weeks ago, but I mean, are they just
it's
amazing?
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable, and they are young, Jerry. I mean, that's the thing.
Know.
They are doing it with kids, with Bryant and Solar, and it just you know, player after player in that day-to-day lineup. These kids are in their mid-20s. It's impressive to see, and yeah, it could be one of those seasons for Chicago too. I mean, talk about the stuff statues are made of, right? In the Chicago Cubs, if they would blitz through. We talked about that fantasy.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. I wanted to get back before I let you go, because one thing that we skipped past, talking about the Indians and making moves, and we kind of joked about it at the beginning, but for anybody that didn't hear the word that came out yesterday, Marlon Byrd, 162 game suspension, a full season suspension, as it is his second steroid suspension, basically, in baseball, which makes the I took a tainted supplement argument that he made a little bit harder to buy when it's the second PED one. But I go back to, I don't know if you remember, it may have been a month, it may have been a couple of weeks ago when you and I were talking, and we kind of brought that up, and I said, man, I'm hearing that there's going to be several more of these things to come. Nobody super significant, but some names that you might recognize, and here it turns out that one of them is right here playing for the Indians, but some more, you know, and I think this goes to show how clearly, as we were talking about before, the league changed whether it was the length of time that these tests went back, or they changed something in the testing, and they continue to catch some cheaters after it had been a while before they had been snagging people. It looked like maybe things were cleaning up. Really, it was more like the cheaters were getting a little bit smarter, and now they've perhaps gotten a step ahead again. But it's the Indians now. How kind of ironic, too, that you get 2 Indians outfielders in the first 3 months of the season here that are both nailed with steroid suspensions, Almonte and now Byrd.
Right. Well, you're right. You did call that a few weeks ago, and you were on record as predicting some more names to come out, and maybe some different reasons for you know, having suspensions, like there's some new materials there. I heard the tainted supplement excuse. I just obviously don't really know what to make of that, and you're
in all fairness, listen, and I'm not trying to be mean to the guy, Dan. I'm not trying. Sorry to cut you off. I'm not trying to be mean to the guy. This is your second suspension, so I'm not buying the story. But even if so, to me, he's as clear a case, kind of like Almonte too, but that's on the younger end of things. But he's as clear a case of a guy that would get caught cheating. He's at the back end of a career. He's trying to get himself one more run, one more contract, one more good push. To me, that is the ideal kind of person that you would expect. Not that you expect, but I think it makes total sense as far as why people take steroids. It would make total sense why a guy like Byrd would, because he's trying to come back from injuries. He's trying to come back from a down season. He's trying to get one more run. He's like Jake Taylor, but on steroids.
Yeah, you're right. And it's not too hard to, you got to wonder a little bit when the guy's taking sort of a half swing at a down and away slider and hitting it out over the right field fence, you know, he's strong. Let's put it that way. He's bulked up, and you don't see 38-year-olds doing that all that often. So he was obviously, it's got to be the least surprising suspension we've seen.
I mean, that's how he got to the Indians, clearly, when he hit 300 in the spring and he had all the doubles and he was jacking the ball around. I mean, clearly you know why now. He juiced up, came to spring, tried to get himself a job, and he got caught with the P-test.
Yeah, but, and I don't know. He's, his career's over. 39-year-olds don't come back from 1-year-long suspensions, especially not outfielders.
Just A-Rod. So, that's the only one that's coming back at 39, right. And that's because he's owed like $100 million.
Yeah, he's got at least 30 million reasons a year to come back. But
the Yankees are going to make him come back at this point. They're like, look, man, you're going to play. If we're going to pay you, then you're going to play, doggone it.
Yeah. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention, Jerry, before you go, I'm sure you probably saw this maybe this morning too. David Blatt landing on his feet.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up as well. He's
David
decided,
Blatt.
I'm good with the NBA, though. I'm going back where I come from.
No tears for David Blatt. A $17 million deal, $2 million a year to coach what Turkish team is it?
Yeah, and you know what?
And more power to him. Good luck, David. I was all the fan. And, all he did is, take his team to the NBA Finals in his first year in the league. So, he got precious little credit for it. But
I'll tell you what.
I was always in his corner.
To me, I mean, he comes out a winner, not just financially in the whole thing, but he was considered the best, like, in the history of his country and his leagues that he was in. And the only challenge left was to come to the States. And he's even got the story where he came, did as much as he could do, got ousted by the evil players that just couldn't deal with his, style of basketball. And now he gets to go back to where he's considered the greatest at what he does again. So his reputation didn't take a hit. If anything, it goes, boy, you know what he did? It's like in the the Jungle Book or in the Land Before Time. You know what he did? He went over the jungle into the dinosaurs, and he came back alive. He's got
That's right.
He went and coached LeBron James, took him to a final, and then came back home a whole bunch money richer, and now he'll be back to he lands on his feet. But I was going to ask you if you saw that, because I said, man, I didn't know. I thought maybe he might want to take a run, but clearly, and we had heard that it was more than just what happened with the Cavs. There were family issues and being away from home. He may have been the first coach, who knows, if they had won the championship, he may have stood up there at the parade and said, you know what, I'm going back home. I'm going home like LeBron went home,
exactly.
Because he was having issues behind the scenes at home and being away from his family.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I haven't heard your prediction, J-Rocc, on the series tonight, starting tonight. What are you going to go on the record here with us?
I mean, I don't mind. I mean, it's like I said. I think the Cavaliers can win this thing. I've got them winning it in Game 6 in overtime at the Q, because it ain't coming easy. Cleveland, if you think it's coming easy after 52 years, you got another thing coming. It's going to take I can see it now. The Cavs are going to have a lead in the final minute of Game 6, and Cleveland's going to be dancing, and then Steph Curry's going to hit a couple of threes in the final 30 seconds, and we're going to go to overtime, and we're going to have to survive, because we know that if we go to Game 7, it's not going to happen. And I think the Cavaliers win in overtime in Game 6 and become the NBA champions. And I really do. That's not just my heart talking, because I'm telling you, it's going to take every bit of 6 or 7 games for either team to win this series. I really believe that there's that much equality between the two, because as good as LeBron is, you want to say he's better than Curry and Thompson, that's great. And Kyrie, the Warriors are deep all the way down, just like the Cavs are. And this is going to be one of those series where every team just goes back and forth making runs. Like you said, just like the first 3 games of that series last year, where it was looking like it was going to be the best. Had that played out for 7, that would have been one of the best NBA finals we've seen in a long time, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. And they were like everybody knows now and could see then. They were on. Cavs are on fumes, and it was like LeBron in 2007. lugging 4 or 5 also rans around the court. It just ran out of gas. But yeah, it would have been a classic series, and I think this one promises to be a classic series. When we talk next, we'll be on the day of Game 3 at the Q.
Yep.
And I can't wait for that scene in downtown Cleveland. That'll be awesome. And hopefully this team is at worst tied 1 game apiece when that day comes. And can you imagine the scene if it's 1-1 and they're playing next Wednesday in Cleveland? It'll be wild. I cannot wait.
That's what you got to do. It's got to be, whether it's Game 1, Game 2, or Game 5, you got to take one of those and then take care of business at home. And as you said, when you come back Wednesday, we will be at Game 3. We'll be talking about the home or premiere in this series. Are you going to do anything with Everybody Hates Cleveland for the finals here this week?
I'm not exactly sure what the guys over there have planned. I'm not going to have any, my Cavs covered myself. That's not my bailiwick. But not sure what's going on with the guys from the website. But I'm sure they'll probably have something cooked up downtown. I'd love to be down there. Actually, it looks like right now work schedule may have me out of town on that day, just like it did this week. So probably won't get to witness that other than on television. But I'll be glued to it.
Everybody's going to be glued to it. Last night, the Lake Erie Monsters, as we mentioned earlier, took care of business in Game 1 of the Calder Cup Finals. They are 3 victories away from being the AHL champions. The Cavaliers hoping to do the same thing. Dan, I cannot wait to get you back in here next week. The Tribe, hopefully they can play their way back into first place this weekend with the Royals series, and the Browns haven't played. They can't screw none of it up. Life is good right now as we speak to be a Cleveland sports fan. I cannot wait until we do this again, man.
You got it right. Always great fun to be with you, J-Rocc. You have a good night.
You got it. My man, Dan Wismar from Everybody Hates Cleveland. You guys, we're going to call it a show. We're going out on a high note, Daddy. Keep your takes coming in. Who's going to win, the Cavaliers or the Golden State Warriors? How many games? Who's the MVP? Leave it on the hotline, 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535. Facebook, Twitter, email, facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Tweet it at The Sports Fix CLE, email The Sports Fix at AOL.com. When we come back, we'll be live next Wednesday. Game 3 on tap from the Q between the Cavs and the Warriors. Monsters continue on in the Calder Cup. Indians more. We're going to do it. Be here with us live. Same bat time, same bat channel. Noon Wednesday for Game 3 of the NBA Finals. In the meantime, enjoy the first 2 games. Enjoy the Calder Cup. The Tribe, get out to the stadium because they're going to fill it up at Progressive Field this weekend, and then be back here next Wednesday live with us. We love you, Cleveland and beyond. Have a good one, and we will see you next week right here when we get back doing the thing here on The Sports Fix.
Survival's a